successes continue growing. I'd like to welcome everybody. Of course, for those of you who are the students, this is the capstone. It means, of course, you all know what it means. It's the end of your academic career at CSUMB, and for that we congratulate you. Congratulate you for getting your degrees out of the Institute for World Languages and Cultures. At the same time, it's the beginning, because tomorrow is commencement. You know that commencement comes from the verb comenzar, to begin. So though it's the end, it's also the beginning. So that gives you congratulations. Also, hopefully your lives and your career hereafter will be fruitful and splendid. You know? Again, congratulations. I'd like to begin first by recognizing the faculty present. I'm sure others will come. Some of the faculty who have helped you in your 4 years here at CSUMB. Dr. Rafael Gomez in the corner, Sharon in the corner, Professor Delina here, and Professor Saito, who was here. And we, of course, we have many others who were part of your, hopefully part of your stay here at CSUMB. I'd also like to recognize the presence of our dean, Dr. Joe Larkin, who has been our dean for 2 years, interim dean, and will be with us until June. Thank Joe for your support and for being here this morning. And I'd also like to recognize our hardworking staff, Monica and Gail and Gus. They do everything for us every day, and sometimes don't get the necessary recognition. Gus has been here, I think, till probably midnight, probably doing things technologically, which all the last couple of weeks. Monica and Gail have also worked very hard to put this together. Everything that we do in this institute, they do for us. So they. And Helen, yes, of course, in the dean's office, you know, we're part of a family, and we're one brother and sister in a group of 4, of course, for the center. And in the center office, we have, of course, Dean Larkin and Helen and Marilyn. And they just do so much for the entire center. So again, well, thank you all. At this moment, I'd like to introduce Dr. Maria Jelena, who was the professor of Capstone the last couple of years, has done wonderful work for the Capstone, has taken it to a level that hopefully next year, the next instructor will be able to duplicate. So,
thank you. Hi everyone. Before I start with I would like, to ask all the students who are the Capstone to stand and give them, a really applause to all of them, please. Thank you. I want to know that this, I have I have been very lucky to be a Capstone instructor. I cannot sing with this, I have a problem, I can't. But because so many of these students have been with me for several semesters, so they become my daughters, and I don't know, they know that. Sometimes I have, to reprimand and to take a belt and, and hit them and everything, but they have been, so wonderful with me. Some of them have, it's the first time they have worked with them. They were at the beginning a little like, okay, what is going on? I know that Bryan was thinking about this many times. But he became accustomed to my style of teaching. I would like to thank the student because we were yesterday preparing, the room. And, we have a parent day where I came today and I see this wonderful, I was like, oh my God, I want one of these. And I waited, for Lisa, if she's going, to give me one of these wonderful kimono, because I think I am going to look very good with this. Anyway, every year we have a challenge with the Capstone, and some of the students have very different themes. And sometimes I don't know what to do with these things. I try, I am a Hispanic literature doctor. And Bryan, when he was talking about humor, I was asking Dr. Yoshiko what he's trying to do it. And Yoshiko said, oh, he knows what he's trying to do. And also she was helping me a lot. I don't see here Susu. She has she's very warm. And she was, talking about her capstone about American Japanese strategy and the United States. I was like, okay, I don't know anything about this, but maybe I can learn. And and then the juego de pelota, the ball game, and my God, these students are killing me. I want something that I really know, about researching literature, like my daughter Kathy was doing, about gender. I know these things. And Mary was from Colombia, and she has to forget me many times because I was thinking she's from Mexico. And every time they was say, you are from, no, I am from Colombia. And she's, doing wonderful, capstone about the salsa in Cali, where is no about droga, like you're going to see drugs. And Melinda, I was thinking all the time that she was a güera. And one day she said, Professor, I am, a güera. I am also, a Mexican American descendant. And I said, huh? Like that. No, so she was, working in the Virgen de Guadalupe. And Manny, who we treat Mary as a illegal in our class because she never show up. So I say, well, this is the way we are, outcome based. What she's doing is okay. And then I have these two ladies who are very quiet. And I always confuse it because I always say Maria, Rocio, Maria, and then I never get it. But, and they came with me, they came at the beginning, and they were Donaldo, the student, and I was asking them, you never smile to me, and they say, oh, because we are a little, afraid of you. And I say, well, I don't know, I am from the Caribbean, this is my style, but he didn't touch it. Anyway, I would like to thank you, Dr. Yoshiko, for her help, Dr. Urioso, lending books to the student and everyone. I would like to thank my students to be so wonderful during all this year. I also want to acknowledge Gail and Monica and Helen because they know me. Always, I am writing that, Monica, give me Zoom, Monica, give me this, and they are always smiling. So thank you very much. Our first presenter is Bryan. Mr. Bryan. Welcome.
Start it up. There we go. Okay, let me get my timepiece ready here so I don't run over or not enough time to say. Okay, good morning everybody. My name is Bryan Hollar, and my presentation today is called Gu no Kocho Nihon no Yumo wa Ichi Maru Ichi, which means the apex of absurdity, Japanese Humor 101. I thought it was a fitting title, and I'm sure you'll see why in just a moment here. Okay. Oh, I think I can do it. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. There we go. Okay, so first I'd like to explain a little bit about why I decided to choose this topic. And so my title up there, and I'm going to use this neat laser pointer that my stepmom gave me here. Up here it says, the purpose of my research. So the first purpose of my research was simply that I didn't find a lot of resources available in English about Japanese humor. So I figured that it was my turn to say something about it. Second of all, I think that knowing the humor of a nation is one of the ways to learn more intimately about the nation itself, because it's one of those things that pops up in daily life a whole lot, and by knowing something about it, you can begin to understand the character of a nation. Second of all, I think that third of all, I think that students of Japanese will benefit from having knowledge of Japanese humor, if nothing else for a conversational device. It seems that many Japanese people come over here and know a thing or two about American television, American humor, American culture, and many many American students of Japanese don't return the courtesy by knowing things about the pop culture of Japan besides anime, perhaps, maybe some J-pop, like Kennedy there. Just kidding. Okay, and the fourth reason why I decided to choose this topic was that I am thinking of pursuing a career in the world of Japanese entertainment myself. This is just sort of a pipe dream, but I figure, regardless, it would be good to sort of know a thing or two about it, but if I do indeed decide to go in that direction. So, that leads me to my next slide, which is, there it is, which is the hypothesis of my research. I decided to divide the word humor up into two distinct categories. The first one is humor used in daily life, and the second is humor used in the media. And this includes television, comic books, satire, newspapers, etc., etc. I'll show you some examples later about surveys or answers that I got from American friends and family about American humor. But I had this feeling that humor in Japan was used primarily as a social lubricant, which is what those three characters represent right there. And the second point about humor used in daily life is that giri and ninjo are important concepts in defining humor in Japan. And I'll, again, get more into giri and ninjo later. And it's not like a giddy ninja, as Suzue's friend Tony likes to call it. Anyway, now the humor in the media, there are several themes that are present in many forms of humor in Japan that act as escapism, and that's what that says right there. And it's also a way to unify the culture. And here's my man Toshiro Mifune, who is playing a fairly comedic role, Tsubaki Sanjuro, where he's questioning authority a lot. And that seems to be one of the themes of Japanese humor. But again, this is all just sort of what do you call it? Before I get into my research talk here. So anyhow, so what is the importance of studying humor? Well, I think that it's one of the ways to learn about the history of Japan. And rakugo, which is a comedic art form where one man sits on the stage giving a comic dialogue, is you're still able to see it in Japan today. And so you can see the themes that people were thinking about when the scripts were written over 300 years ago. And hey, family. So by watching some of the old rakugo performances, you can get an idea what people were thinking about back in the Edo period, which was I don't know, a period that lasted from the 1600s to the mid 1800s. And one of the interesting things about rakugo is that the scripts never change. There's not much progress in rakugo per se, because the scripts have all been decided about 300 years ago. So one of the interesting things about Japanese humor, and rakugo especially, is that it's the quality of the performance, not necessarily the content of the dialogue, that's important. You can see a rakugo performance many times and still come away with something new from it, because it depends on the performer's skills. Like, that guy might not be any good, who knows? Okay. Another popular comic form where the scripts are all decided and there's not much progress is kyogen. And kyogen is the comedic branch of no drama. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with no drama. It's the very sort of stylized stylized form of theater in Japan that uses sparse music and very defined movements to express ideas. And this is where I'd like to explain a little bit more about one of the most popular themes I noticed in Japanese comedy that relates to escapism, as I said before. As you'll see, this man here has a big stick behind his back like this. And this is from a Kyogen play called Boshibari, which means bound by a stick, basically. And in this story, the main character, who's this guy, who's not tied up, he's the master of the house. And he goes away and leaves his servants alone to watch for any burglars while he's gone. And to prevent the servants from drinking his sake, he decides to bound them in a stick here, which automatically is humor, because how are they going to defend against burglars if they're tied up in a stick? But the primary point is that the two guys figure out a way to remove their shackles and end up drinking the sake anyway. And the master of the house comes back, and to his dismay, he sees his servants rolling on the ground in a drunken stupor, and he is made to look like the fool. And you see that a lot in Japanese humor, where somebody who has a figure of authority sort of is made to look like the fool. And I attribute this fact to the idea in Japanese culture of different social levels. A lot of people in Japan, I'm sure, would just love to torment their boss the way that these guys do here. But there are certain consequences in real life that can't be avoided. And by seeing these two guys, doing their wild antics on stage, they can sort of relate and say, boy, I wish I could do that. And it sort of serves as kind of a poor man's escape from his daily life, where he has to kowtow to his boss. Okay, so, keep doing that. There we go. Okay, so how do I know all these things? How do I know all these things about Japanese culture? Well, I took 3 primary measures to find out the things I know. The first one is a survey that I conducted. And the second is a literature search. I tried to scour as many books and websites as possible, getting information. And the third one is talking to my friends. And this is a picture of some of my friends who I've talked at length with about humor. And there I am right there. We're camping in the mountains of Fukushima right here and had ample time to discuss such things. And they took my survey, and I'm indebted to them for that. So, here is a copy of my survey. If you were a Japanese person in Tokyo this summer, you might have seen me coming up to you going, "Would you please fill this out for me?" So here's my paper that I used as my survey for people to fill out. And it's got 6 questions in total, but I decided to focus my research on 3 questions from the survey itself. The first question says, what does the word humor mean to you? I thought by getting a broad definition of what humor means to the average Japanese person, I could make some assumptions and analyses based on the answers I got. Now, the second question was, do the Japanese people have a sense of humor at all? I've heard it said that they don't, and I decided what better way to find out than to ask them directly. And third, I asked if the language of Osaka, the Osaka dialect, is funnier than the Tokyo dialect, because I've heard that said as well. So, there we go. Okay. So, I handed out about 100 surveys this summer and got back 81 total. 43 men and 38 women, ranging in ages from 19 to 75. So I think I got a pretty good range of people to give me their opinions about humor. So what exactly did I find out? I found out that Japanese people tend to think of humor in the following words here. And I will give you a brief translation. The words are, in order, fun, settling down, closeness, human relationships, relaxation, social lubricant, spirit, communication, relieving tension, and richness. In contrast to this, I asked some of my American friends what they thought about humor. And the words I came up with were sarcasm, vulgarity, toilet humor, mockery, and parody. So this kind of illustrates a very different concept of what humor is in these two different countries. And I thought, this is pretty interesting. It seems to me that the Japanese focus more on the positive benefits of humor than on the various types of humor that exist. Preserving the harmony of a situation is very important in Japanese society. And like I was saying with the guys that are bound up, you can't really go against a figure of authority in Japanese society without serious consequences in some situations. So using humor sort of as a tool to help human communications, as social lubricant, it's one of those tools in daily life to help get through the rough stuff that comes up now and again. Okay, whoops, there we go. That works. Okay, looks like my notes page is blank here. It says the number here, but no notes. And this is the one that has a lot of Japanese on it, so that's not really a lot of fun. Boy, I wish I noticed that before. No, that's okay. For some reason, this page didn't print out well. Anyway, try to do my best with this one here, spur of the moment. Let's see. So here were some of the big responses that I got back from people, some of the most important ones that I felt. And I'll quickly run you through them here. This girl, 22-year-old woman, says that she thinks humor is part of being happy and that when you're laughing, you can forget your problems for a while. A 19-year-old male told me that humor is愚の骨頂, which is, if you recall, the title of my capstone, which means the apex of absurdity, the height of folly, something like that. A 40-year-old woman told me that, that humor is kindness and one of the paradoxes that changes darkness into light. And the contrast between yami and hikari, darkness and light, in Japanese literature is really important, and I think that this really sums up a lot of the emotion of how humor is used in daily life. A 69-year-old man told me that that humor acts, again, as a social lubricant to smooth out the tough situations that occur between humans. And this 68-year-old woman said humor is, let's see, it's a playful spirit that's born from the experiences of daily life. And this 50-year-old man told me that humor makes communication go more smoothly if people of the same religion and culture are using it among each other. And this kind of brings up an interesting point that I thought. As we recall from the last slide, there's a big gap between what Americans think of as humor and what Japanese people think of as humor. And I've known many of my Japanese friends to say that they simply don't get The Simpsons when they're watching it. They don't get the little puns that we do here in the States. And really, since we're not from the same culture or religion, there's kind of always that struggle to figure out what's going on in another culture. And I think, really, it's easier for us Americans to understand what they're doing in Japan with humor than it is for Japanese people to understand how we perceive humor. Now, I think I've established that humor is fairly important in Japanese life. So, when I asked the question, do Japanese people have a sense of humor, I was shocked by the results. I found out that only 51% of men and only 39% of women thought that the Japanese have a sense of humor at all. And I thought, why is this? I've been getting these great responses saying that, yeah, we use humor a lot, it's an important part of our lives, and yet we don't have humor. Seems to be kind of a contradiction there. So, in deciding why the results were so low, especially among the women, this is the yes, I think Japanese people do have a sense of humor row, or column, and this is the no, I don't. So, that was pretty shocking to me. And, whoops, there we go. I asked the question, do they really not have a sense of humor? And here are the reasons I came up with why they might, why Japanese people might claim that they don't have a sense of humor. First of all, Japanese people like to appear modest, especially to foreigners. And to me, they wanted to show a very serious face, I think. They wanted to show the seriousness of their nation without, without me getting the impression that there was anything besides seriousness in their culture, which, I don't know, was kind of strange to me. And second of all, the word humor is rendered into Japanese as yumoa, and that's the closest it can get in the Japanese pronunciation. But it's still the English word, and I think that there was a problem with the translation somewhere across the Pacific. And again, like I said, what Japanese people think of as American humor is very different. And they said, and they probably thought, well, we modest Japanese folk can't compare to your outrageous American humor, so we won't even claim that we have a sense of humor. And I think being a foreigner, I kind of got skewed results on that. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I came across a very interesting quote from a very popular author named Inoue Hisashi. And it sort of helps to answer my questions more about why the Japanese think they don't have a sense of humor. His quote right here says that in a small group, in a small closed circle, Japanese people have a great sense of humor, but in a more open environment, they tend to not have such a great sense of humor. And he says that politicians' speeches are a good example of this. Now, I have this feeling that this quote was written before Koizumi Junichiro, who's the current Prime Minister of Japan, took power, because he's been doing a lot of things in Japanese politics that really have never been attempted before. He does use humor in his speeches, and he has gone so far as to release an album of his favorite Elvis songs. Things that really go fly in the face of the obuchis of the past, if anybody are familiar with former Japanese prime ministers. The sort of very strict and stern demeanor that previous prime ministers have had. So, I think that this reflects a bit of a cultural change in Japan, that humor is starting to be used more in an open environment and not just in a closed circle. But there is still that stigma, and I think that that many of the people who I didn't know very well, who I gave the survey to, answered that the Japanese didn't have a sense of humor because I wasn't a part of their circle, and they weren't really willing to share that information with me. But I hypothesized, and I can't test this theory because I did all the surveys anonymously, but I think that the people that I knew well, my friends, would have answered that the Japanese do have a sense of humor because they'd be more willing to share that information with me. Okay. Let's see, looks like I'm running out of time a bit here, so I'll try to speed things up. No? Okay. Great. In that case. Okay, so here's the third question to my survey, which asks, is the dialect of Osaka funnier than the dialect of Tokyo? And I've heard this again and again, and it seems that even Tokyoites agree that their Osaka counterparts are funnier. This is the positive category for women, for men, and for both. And you can really see that that a lot of that most Japanese people think that the Osaka dialect is a lot funnier. And there does seem to be a fair amount of comedians from Japan who hail from the Kansai region, where Osaka is located. And let's see, down in Kansai they have an interesting phenomenon of training schools for comedians. And one of the most famous ones is Matsumoto Kogyo. And they've trained some of the most famous Japanese comedians, like the Downtown guys. And There they go. They're the downtown guys, right there. Okay. My next slide sort of deals with the differences between Osaka and Tokyo humor. These guys, I'm sure, have been funny all their lives. They're the most popular thing going right now in Japan on television. They're a stand-up comedy troupe called Downtown, and they're on TV almost every day just doing their crazy antics, and they hail from Osaka. Now this guy, Beat Takeshi, he's a fairly well-known movie director abroad, but he's also a very famous Japanese television personality, and he often does comedic things. And so I found this interesting discussion between these two guys down here about, well, let's see, this guy right here, Matsumoto and Beat Takeshi, about the nature of their training to become comedians. Takeshi grew up in a really lousy environment, and his family died at a very young age, and he sort of raised himself and had hard times in the streets of Tokyo. And he was telling Matsumoto here that that to become a comedian, you can't just go to this training school. You've got to live experiences and translate them into humor in order for it to be effective. And Matsumoto said, well, my dad almost kicked me out of the house when I told him I wanted to go to a comedy training school. Does that count? Then he laughs. I thought it was funny. Anyway, so this sort of reflects the two different attitudes that exist in the two regions. The Tokyo stuff tends to be a bit more, a bit more realistic in ways, whereas the Osaka stuff tends to be a bit more, trained with these training schools and whatnot. Okay. Now, one more, this is almost my last slide here. I'm going to go a little bit back more into humor in daily life. I was talking about giri and ninjo again, and I know Tony here likes to think of it as the giri ninja, but no, that's not what it is. Giri can be roughly translated into English as duty or obligation, and ninjo means human compassion and human feelings. So I'd like to give a little example from daily life where humor might be used to show you how humor is effective in daily life. Let's say that our good friend Aiko here goes back to Japan and gets a job at a company. She has a boss who keeps telling lame jokes again and again, the same old boring jokes, but Aiko still has the duty to laugh about these jokes that he says. If he doesn't, again, there are consequences. And this works on all kinds of levels, not just the employer-employee level, but in terms of friendship in Japan, there's this sense of giri and ninjo. And I think that the ninjo part is the telling of the joke, the human emotion of trying to get somebody to laugh, and the giri part is laughing at the joke even if you don't want to in order to maintain the harmony. So I think that both of these concepts are at play in Japanese humor in daily life. The emotion to try to liven an atmosphere and to laugh at it even if you want to just go, all right, lame. So anyway, in summary, there we go. In summary, using Takeo Doi's model, he's the author of this book that talks in detail about giri and ninjo. Using his model, giri and ninjo can explain many facets of Japanese society when analyzed properly. Second of all, communication and human relationships, easing a stressful atmosphere, and communicating seem to be some of the primary themes in Japanese humor in daily life, as opposed to American humor, which is just make everybody laugh all the time. There are regional differences in Japanese humor, which keeps humor fresh. You can always get a new perspective depending on where you are in the country. Fourth, humor in the media often parodies rigid social patterns in Japan and lets the average citizen fantasize about living in a world free of giri and ninjo. which are those two concepts I mentioned earlier. Let's see. And number 5, humor is starting to be used more in public places and other venues where it used to be taboo. And that sort of reflects a broader social change in Japan that will be interesting to watch as we move through time. Again, it's a pretty interesting time to be a student of Japan because of all these great social changes. And humor is definitely one of them, I think. And that is my presentation. Those are some of my sources.
Bryan, I am not going to let you to leave because I want to ask you, about something about and you about humor. And this is about the pie in the face. You know, many Americans are using, you know, for me it's no humor. But maybe you can explain. You see, the Japanese are getting that this is humor.
Well, that's the pie in the face is kind of like slapstick humor in its expression. It's definitely American. It probably would be appreciated in Europe too, but I'm not sure. Japan, as Bryan pointed out, has got kind of a bi-level. There's the official public presence, and then there's the real. And I think Japanese people laugh a lot. They have a lot of humor, and I would agree with Bryan that recent television and whatnot, you're seeing dramas with humor that you might not have seen 5-10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I talk more in my paper as well about Japan sort of loosening up in general, and where humor used to be taboo, it's now becoming more commonplace. So it's an interesting change to watch.
Okay.
Any other questions? No? Okay.
Yes, maybe a personal one.
Yeah.
You just have to answer it. At the beginning, you talked about your future plans, professional plans.
Yeah.
That involved performing in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Could you expand a little bit on it? If you don't think it's
Sure. Well, it's just one of my pipe dreams. I'd like to at least audition for some television roles while I'm in Japan. I know a lot of my friends who are foreigners, mainly German people actually, who are on Japanese TV and they do bit spots, and a lot of them are on this show called Koko ga Hendayo Nihonjin, which means these Japanese people are sure weird. And it's a bunch of foreigners who speak Japanese fluently and talk about various social issues in Japan. So that seems to be one of the good ways to get in the door in Japanese culture, so to speak. And if I can get my Japanese sort of up to snuff, then I'd like to see if I can get into shows like that just for fun. Maybe not a career. Okay. Thank you.
We have about 5 minutes, so I would like to invite you to take some coffee and to do some of the portfolio from the students.
Thank you.
Sorry,
turn this off.
We have water at the end of the room, so please.
Trying to use me, I guess. Oh, you know it. Thank you. A little smoother than yesterday?
I'm sorry about walking. The secretary out there said somebody else is giving a presentation right now. So we stood, and finally I heard your voice. I'm a little irritated about that. That's okay. Hey, Moa.
I think we got here at a good time. Thank you.
At the very beginning, that's the one just now.
Oh, Brian, do you want it?
Oh, okay. Just
And I've got it off back here. I'm also going to turn on the PA, okay? So it'll just, let's see. Actually, do you mind if I put this in the middle? No, otherwise excuse me. They say right in the middle of your chest is the best spot, so. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
and then this is
Now, this is your stuff here?
no, that's
No, I'm sorry.
Right,
I'm going to
Yesterday got to Tokyo, and then when we got on the subway,
sleep that. And, okay, let's see. What is your Are you on the Mac or the PC?
The Mac.
How about that? Is this one?
Yes.
What's this one?
You recovered real well. Black sheep too, Brian. Yeah. I don't know what.
That's right? Okay. I'm going to switch computers and take this one off of there. Okay. And then I'm going to put up just the today's daily schedule for a few minutes.
Okay.
I think I've got it. I'm just gonna figure
And
it
then
out.
just move that
Actually,
to
you know what
the.
we can do? Here's what we can do. Then go over here.
Thank you.
This will work. There we go. When it's time for yours, just press the button and it'll be there. Okay?
Just press the.
I'm sorry. It's the AB button, and yours is A, and the lab is, or the room is B. So just press the A button. You see it?
And then take the mouse.
Yep. And we'll actually
just-
we can get the mouse over there already. Yep. Let's get the mouse.
Okay.
Looks good. You don't have that?
No puedo. Sí. Me dan bien muchos nervios, me sudan las manos. Como que no puedo.
La familia de Bryan se va a ir, solo vamos a... Just pretend.
Me está haciendo así mi heart.
Solo pretend que somos nosotros nomás.
¿Qué es eso?
Es composition.
Oh.
Cosas de nuestra clase. Entonces. Le dije, como perdió mis composiciones dos veces, el viejito fuerte, again, like 3 compositions, las perdió. Les dio tres compositions, y dije, ya me revisó mis compositions, dijo, no las tengo. Dije, es la second time que te las doy, I deserve an A.
Good job.
Y me dice, oh, that is good. Le llamo a la bomba y le digo, no voy a poder venir a las 2 porque we're running late aquí en las presentations. Dice, so, you're not coming in at 2? Dije, no, mi trabajo. Es que tengo que trabajar a las 2. Dije, pero I'm running late. Le digo, I'll be before 5, but I don't know. Le digo, hasta que se termine aquí. ¿Qué quieres? No, but the thing is, no, sí, no quiero ir, pero aparte tengo que terminar el examen de y que hacerle copias a mi y ya entregar el portfolio.
¿Y no te daban el día off o no lo pediste?
No lo pedí on time. I usually have to do it un mes en avance. Pero I don't care si nos corren. ¿Verdad, Tere?
Ya ayer no fui.
Ayer ella no fue.
Tenía que traer las 2 y no fui.
Yo estuve ahí ayer, I saw you de lejos.
Se enojaron bien feo porque no fui.
¿Eh?
Y yo le dije, well, I'm sorry. Le digo, pero school is more important than work. Se enojaron. Y yo me salí.
Good for you.
Ya no vinieron gente mexicana.
Tengo el micrófono abierto, bien prendido.
¿What?
Está prendido el micrófono de este.
No lo puedes apagar. Lo puedes apagar si quieres. Voy a poner esto escondido ya.
Ay, estoy bien nerviosa.
Are you up next?
Yeah.
Butterflies?
Sweating.
Are they all heads of cabbage sitting in chairs instead of people?
People.
Talking to a field in Castro. That's what we're doing.
Me va a dar risa. Yo creo que me va a dar risa de los nervios.
snapping a shot.
You guys want to background?
Déjame ver a quién voy a ver.
We can make everyone run and go in the back and go both directions. It's a
Ya hubiera acabado si hubiera sido a las 9.
We're running late, ¿verdad?
Yeah, half an hour.
Sure. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Parece que está nerviosa también la maestra. No ha llegado Lupe, ¿verdad?
One more. I've got to do more presentations. Another presentation to go.
Maestra.
Don't start before 10. So you got about 5 more minutes, okay? If we start early, sometimes the parents miss it.
I know. This is the reason I say that he has time.
Yeah, okay, yeah, good. Thank
Because
you
I
very
didn't-
much.
I
Yeah.
didn't
Oh,
know
for the
that.
coffee and everything.
I didn't know that Donaldo was
He was a little ahead.
very short.
So next year we'll do presentations starting at, or welcomes at 9:15 and presentations at
Yeah, in this way, because these 2 or 3 phrases is only 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, I cannot. I don't want to say what they are going to do because I'm making.
So there's going to be a big shadow. Yeah.